Texas is full of lost history, from lost cemeteries to abandoned buildings, from the infamous to the obscure.
Not many people know this building's out here.
Hitch a ride and travel across the Lone Star State, looking for hints of Texas' colorful past.
This is the Alamo compound.
Our lost history. This is Expedition Texas, and we're gonna find it.
Back in 1942, Smith County and Tyler actually had a signal corps that was housed in the Tyler Commercial College, here right on College Avenue in Elm. When the War Assets Administration deemed that Camp Robinson, Arkansas was too small to accommodate the number of trainees that needed to be trained, they were looking for a new site. Lindley Beckworth went to Congress and said, we have a site, you've already purchased 2,000 acres of land for an airstrip. Let's not use it as an airstrip, let's use it as a training center. In 1942, December of 1942, the U.S. Army created the Camp Fannin IRTC, Infantry Replacement Training Center. The purpose of the camp was to train men that had been enlisted or drafted to go into foreign service either in the Pacific Theater or into the European Theater as infantry replacements. The first draftees and troops arrived in May of 1943. The first group of trainees started in June of 1943 and graduated in November of 1943. It was quite a rigorous time. It took a long time to train them at that point. In the establishment of the camp, they also established a 1,000-bed station hospital, which is, as you'll find, is now the site of the University of Texas Health Science Center at Tyler, sometimes known as UT Northeast. In between 1943 and December of 1945, it's estimated between 150,000 and 200,000 men from throughout the United States were trained at Camp Fannin, Texas. But there's a lot of other stories about the GIs that met their wives at Camp Fannin, went off to serve in the war and came back to Tyler and settled down and raised their families. Those are good stories. The sad stories are about the guys that didn't come back. And some served and some gave their all. It's a great, the greatest generation is slipping by us, but we hope that the Camp Fannin legacy will live on forever.
How's it going?
It's going great. Welcome to the Historical Society.
Hey, so the Smith County Historical Society and you guys, I understand, have a really good display on Camp Fannin here.
We have in our Century of Progress exhibit, the newest exhibit we've had in the last 10 years, a great little display on World War II and Camp Fannin, and I'd like to show it to you.
All right, let's see it.
Let me show you a little bit about what we have here about Camp Fannin in our Century of Progress exhibit. You can see here we've got some shell casings all the way from 50 millimeter down to 22 size, Camp Fannin license plate that was actually on one of the vehicles there at Camp Fannin. Record with the national anthem on it and Morse code, and this was a two-way radio communication. Back here on this big black object here is what they used to make dog tags with.
Wow.
Yeah. This is a fire control pump, a valve. What a lot of people don't realize about Camp Fannin is that they had their own water system, their own sanitary system. What people don't realize is they're still using them. Both the water system and the sanitary systems out there in Owentown, what we refer to it now, and on the UT Health Center grounds, were put in during the 1942 and 43 installation of Camp Fannin.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
This is the base of the 100,000 gallon water tank.
But it's open. Come on.
We're in Tyler, Texas to learn the history of Camp Fannin. Our guide is John Anderson with the Smith County Historical Society. First, he's taking us to the campus of the University of Texas Health Center in Tyler. The reason? Because it was once home to the base hospital.
Very here on the property of the University of Texas Health Science Center at Tyler, which was originally the station hospital for Camp Fannin. And there's still a few things left that are here. For instance, we're going to be going over here by the smokestack.
This smokestack that's out here, is this the only thing that's left of the original base hospital?
Yes, it is. The reason the smokestack is still here, so I've been told, is because it's built so well it'd take too much to tear it down.
Wow, that says a lot for the construction. When we first started down these back roads, I didn't really expect much. We weren't seeing a lot. We saw some old concrete pylons and different things that were out there. But as we started getting closer and deeper into the woods, we started to see full foundations. In fact, some that people had gone and built on. But these foundations dated all the way back to the 40s to the original Camp Fannin. As we're driving along out here on this road, what road are we on here now?
This is what we call Center Cemetery Road.
Okay, and as we're driving along, if we're looking, we're seeing slabs, and some people have even built on the slabs as they own this as private property, so we can't really go on this property. But if you'll look off into the woods here, there's slabs out here.
Yeah, and I believe, based on my map of Camp Fannin and the 15th Regiment, I believe that was probably either the library building or the administrative, where the commanding officer for the regiment would have been housed.
All this infrastructure out here, everything that was here at one time is gone now, and all that remains are
these slabs.
So we're traveling down this back road, and John motions to the right, and we look out the window, and just beyond the trees, we can see this massive concrete structure.
This is the base of the 100,000-gallon water tank.
This is just the base?
This is just the base. There was about a 30-foot wooden water tank there on the top of it, and it was for fire control.
So 30 more feet above this.
That was the wooden tank that held the 100,000 gallons of water.
Wow!
This is big.
And this was for fire prevention for the whole base?
For the whole,
Oh my God.
Entire camp. And it is just absolutely phenomenal. Somebody had bought it and was going to try to restore it. And I don't know what they're going to do with it. But that's where the pumping station is over here on our right.
Oh, wow.
Hello, hello.
We come up on the water tower and we see that there's an opening where you can go in. I had to check that out. Come on.
For sale.
It's for sale. We saw the for sale sign. Listen to the echo. Wow. People pay a lot of money for reverb effects like this. Is this middle?
The water was pumped up to the pipe there.
Yeah.
The pumping station is out here.
Say that again?
The pumping station is out here, and it was pumped up into that wooden tank, a 100,000 gallon tank.
100,000 gallon tank. Look at this. There's over here. I wonder if this is sturdy. What do you think, John? It's full of water. Can you see this? It's full of water. And there's pipe going there. I don't know if this board is sturdy. I think I can see the bottom, but I want to try to get out to the middle. It seems sturdy enough. I'm gonna try to cross this. Okay. It wouldn't have been so scary if it wasn't for all the water around this moat. But over here, valve to turn the water off. This is crazy, John. Yeah, definitely interested. This is cool. Just don't want to stay on that very long. And then just to the side of the massive concrete structure was another concrete structure where the machinery was once housed. Well, we love climbing on this show.
Oh, yes, you do.
Wow, not as big of an echo. Look at that, there's ladders on both sides.
Yeah, they stripped all the equipment out of it.
Yeah.
Other than that.
So what kind of equipment would have been down in here?
Well, just the pumps, some kind of electronic or hydraulic pumps to force that water up that 70-foot tower.
Okay. Let's check it out. Yeah, look, here's the big pipe over here. And this is out here in the woods. And yeah, just concrete slabs and water towers and whatever this thing is. John told us that as late as the 1980s, you could still see the big wooden tank on top of the tower. But that had changed recently. Sometime in the last 10 or 15 years, the tank had blown off the top, and now it was just a big pile of wood laying on the ground beside the tower. Looks like there might have been a really big wind that direction, and a lot of it came over here.
This is the wood from the tank on top that held the 100,000 gallons of water.
Wow.
It was a wooden tank.
And this is all that's left of it now, a big pile of scrap.
We're near Tyler, Texas, at what remains of a World War II infantry replacement camp known as Camp Fannin. Our guide is historian John Anderson. So far, we've seen what remains of the old hospital, foundations for some of the barracks, and the massive base of a water tower. But that's not all that remains of this enormous camp positioned near Tyler, Texas.
On the right-hand side up here is a movie theater, and it's still intact. Exterior is still intact, and this is where the men would go and be shown training films on various and sundry things. And it's been occupied pretty much ever since it.
Wow.
And it's now a packing and shipping center, and you can see it a little bit better here from there. We get the physical structure of it right here on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
And that is almost exactly as it was during the Camp Fannin era. Those are 3 buildings that were over at the UT Health Center in the motor pool area, and an entrepreneur purchased them from the health center and moved them over here and combined them into more of an office complex. At one time there was a day school in one of them.
Next, John took us to an area where a lot of the old buildings were still standing, including an old depot known as Amigo Switch. It's where all the soldiers would get off when they were brought here to Camp Fannin.
Well, all right, this is an Amigo Switch depot building, and this would have been located over at the railroad tracks over here, and this is what the draftees and the soldiers, enlistees would see as they got off the train as they arrived at Camp Fannin. This would be one of the first things they see would be the depot. It's not in great conservation shape, but it is the original depot for Camp Fannin.
Wow, and so they basically drug it just from a little ways over
Yeah.
where the tracks are.
Yeah, it was over here by the Roadmaster building. And this building over here, that was probably WAC Barracks, Women's Army Corps.
Oh, okay.
Women's Army Corps had all this ground over in this area here behind these new buildings.
We're near Tyler, Texas, exploring what remains of the World War II infantry replacement camp known as Camp Fannin. We've explored old water towers, old smokestacks, found traces of old barracks, and even the train depot that the troops saw when they arrived. But nearby, our guide was about to show us some of the largest structures that remain of Camp Fannin.
These slabs would have been warehouses. They would have been temporary as opposed to some of the others that you'll see that were made out of concrete and so forth. They are also, at one time, this whole area was covered with rose growers. After the war, a lot of the rose growers came over and used these warehouses for easy transport to the rail system.
Well, because Tyler is known
As the Rose Capital.
Rose Capital.
That's right.
That's right.
To me, it's amazing when you look around and you see these buildings that were built in 1942-43 still being used for commercial purposes, and the transformation of them from a war where you had to bring in supplies for the GIs and food and clothing and first aid and so forth, and now we're producing products, and the rose industry has thrived from using the cold storage buildings. It just brings a lot of satisfaction to know that some good did come out of and will remain with us for the rest of our lives.
Well, you drive around out here and you would think, oh, it's just an old abandoned industrial area.
Yeah.
And unless you know the history, and know that all of this, none of it was here before.
No, before Camp Fannin, no,
Wow.
nothing. This all was created, all 15,000 acres that they created, but this 2,000 that we're in this area right here, that was the heart and soul of Camp Fannin.
Right, yeah, massive operation out here, and just look at all the concrete and steel that
And
surrounds us.
And I can drive, every time I come out here, I found a different remnant that was placed here during 42, 43.
Really,
Yeah,
and there's so much to see out here. There's no way we can see it all, but you can learn about the history of Camp Fannin with the Smith County Historical Society. Tell us about that.
Well, we are the depository for all the history of Smith County, and we have an archives and a museum in the old historic Carnegie building down there at College and Elm, and been in existence for 1959, but we are the location for Smith County history.
Can they find you on the web?
Yes, they can.
All right, how?
www.smithcountyhistoricalsociety.org.
There you go. Thanks so
Thank
much
you.
for showing us around.
Yeah, this has been fun.
Braving
Thank
the
you.
cold weather with us. Thank
Oh,
you.
you just think about a trainee that was here in February of 1943.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is nothing.
Yeah.
Nature is reclaiming most of what was once Camp Fannin. For a brief time in the 1940s, this patch of East Texas land bustled with activity and trained members of the greatest generation. Over the years, as a result of its short life, Camp Fannin has slowly been forgotten. But among the trees in East Texas are traces of the massive camp that once trained tens of thousands of Americans for the war. There are places like this all over Texas, and now it's time to hit the road and discover more lost Texas history. It's out there, and we're going to find it.
You know what's cool to do when you have an echo like this? Beach Boys songs.